All right, guys, let's talk about Little Tecca because I feel like right now we're on a nice trend of going through the late stage SoundCloud rappers who may have fell off for one reason or another, but Tecca to me is a bit different because surprisingly, even with him somewhat disappearing from the public eye after his first big hit, he's become kind of a father figure to the new underground scene that popped off in 2021, which when you think about it makes a lot of sense considering he started rapping so young and blew up at only the age of 16, so he's about the same age as these people who are popping off now around 18 to 21. But blowing up so young in life is not always a good thing because it means that you have a lot of expectations and not a lot of experience in life to really be able to fulfill those. But for Tecca, he seemed to find a way. So let's find out how he did that when we look into the story of Little Tecca. Tyler Justin Anthony Sharp was born August 26, 2002 in Queens, New York, with both his parents immigrating to the city from Jamaica sometime before he was born. He would spend his first couple years of life there playing basketball and hanging out with kids on the block, but after he got to the age of 7, his parents once again decided to move within the city, this time to Long Island, which he describes as being a lot more of an isolated area with kids that he didn't really fit in with. And this would lead him to spend a lot of his time inside playing video games on his Xbox 360. At first, he was only allowed to play on the weekends, but eventually he would start playing every day after school, and it was through his time spent in these lobbies that he'd meet a lot of online friends that he would often go back and forth with, roasting them on Xbox Live before finally deciding that he wanted to take it to the next level and make a full-on diss track, posting it on Soundcloud the following day. And Tecca and his online friends actually found this so funny that he would continue to make diss tracks on people that went to his local high school, and because of that, his guidance counselor would eventually become aware of that, and he had to take down all his music for fear of getting in trouble. It's kind of surprising to see how much of a shit disturber he used to be in his early days. Nowadays, we know him as that low-key rapper that stays out of the way and doesn't really pop up for any antics, but back then, he was fighting with basically everybody. But after clearing all his work off SoundCloud, you'd think that he would give up and throw in the towel, but apparently he had such a love for music that he continued to make music, doing some more serious stuff from this point on, being heavily influenced by Chief Keef, Michael Jackson, and even Coldplay. Now, when you actually listen to his music, you really don't hear any of those people in it whatsoever, but the reason that he liked Chief Keef so much is he said it was the first person to really make rapping cool and gave him the idea of becoming one himself. Now, when looking through Tecca's SoundCloud, you can find 3 of his earliest tracks being called Tokyo, Stress Less, and Simple, which surprisingly sound pretty similar to his later works and even include his iconic We Love You Tecca tag. However, it was his track No More that was produced by a guy that actually goes under the name Prod, which is kind of confusing, but either way, the song ended up doing numbers, gaining him his first 6,000 followers on SoundCloud, and really showing him that he might have a future in making music. This track is very vibey and has a lot of cap rap bars in it, talking about him being on the block with his boys and selling drugs to people, which is something that he never did and would actually admit to later on, but either way, it's funny to see that he was capping all the way from the start. Around the same time, he would discover a song by a Toronto artist named IB Spliffy called My Phone, which he didn't mess with at all. However, the views on the track would bring him back time and time again, with him trying to crack the code of how the track could possibly be so popular and also be so bad. With him eventually deciding to find a similar beat and drop his own track in the same style called Calling, which at first really didn't do anything for him, until all of a sudden a Toronto news page called Six Buzz ended up posting both the tracks side by side and saying that Little Tecca was actually biting Spliffy's flow, which would immediately get people to go over to Tecca's page and call him out, giving him this weird reputation in Toronto for being somebody that was biting the style and trying to run off with it, but instead of backing down like a lot of kids his age probably would, he decided to play into it and start trolling people.
And then, we gotta go crazy, I hear you. I think I hear you.
Oh, man. Listen. You told my little brother you're 25. Well, what kind of stuff is that? What is that? Ha, man.
I'm 12. I get on we be on the TTC for free all the time.
Right. How old are you? Why are you like this?
I'm 12.
Yo, I made this dance. I made that.
I made Homemade Nation is my thing.
Where's the hat? What are you talking about? I've been doing How Man since hats. What are you talking about? Where's the How Man?
There's countless Instagram live streams from around the time where people in Toronto would be genuinely mad at Tecca, calling him out, and he'd put on a fake accent, making fun of them, and basically getting more of a reputation and gaining more attention because of that.
Man, them is spinning the mix-up, fam. Mix-up, fam.
Fam, I came on and I'm hearing that you're talking shit, fam.
Bro, there's hella mix-up, fam. Man, them is just, men telling me clip my nail, not happening, fam. Man, them is just saying.
Shut up, talk properly.
Fam, make sure there's no mix-up, fam, because I'm hearing that man, they're talking shit on the live and everything.
Bro, man, them, I'm just talking like you.
This guy's basically the father of the Instagram live community, and people aren't even aware of that. So every time that you listen to the Island Boys in the future, which is probably never because why would you? You got to thank Little Tecca because he's the one who basically started this entire wave that they would eventually bite onto and blow up with. So yeah, the Island Boys were started by Little Tecca. The more you know. But anyways, all these random fights on Instagram would eventually lead people to check out Tecca's music, growing his fan base on Soundcloud to a healthy 15K followers. And in early 2018, he would drop a music video for the track that now sits at over 2 million views. After that, he would continue to drop more music, including Flyboys, Rags to Riches, Get It Back, and Count Me Out, which actually got a music video on Elevator, where within the video, Tecca would once again play into that troll persona with a FaceTime call fight at the start of the video. After that video came out, he would continue to drop tracks on SoundCloud like Count Me Out, Love Me, No Feelings, and Love No Thought, with each of these tracks getting more and more plays than the last before he finally dropped his first real breakthrough hit, Did It Again, which became so big it actually caught the attention of Internet Money CEO Taz Taylor. Apparently, the very same day that Little Tecca ended up starting his Twitter account, Taz Taylor would tweet at him and say that he wanted him to fly out to LA to meet, which at first he didn't believe, but after looking into him, he realized that this was an actual opportunity. And for those of you questioning this actually happening, this was actually a pretty common thing that went on during 2018 to 2019. This is how Juice WRLD got his start, this is how Lil Mosey got his start, people like Ian Dior, and Little Tecca was just another one of those people. So of course it was a no-brainer for Little Tecca and his dad to fly out to LA to meet Internet Money and the team, as well as meeting another upcoming artist named Lil Mosey. The two of them hopping in the studio in early 2018 to create a track called Somebody, as well as Tecca dropping his own solo track called Molly Girl, which once again became another big hit on SoundCloud, although it did have Mosey looking at him sideways because it had a supposedly stolen line from his own track, Burberry Headband, but for now he didn't say too much and the two remained on good terms. Soon after that, Did It Again would get a music video on World Star Hip Hop before Tecca would then fly out to the Dominican Republic to shoot a video for his next big Internet Money produced track known as Ransom, which of course was directed by Cole Bennett, and after he posted it on his channel, Lyrical Lemonade, it ended up blowing up as one of the biggest tracks on the channel ever and peaking at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, which would immediately land him a deal with Republic Records and set him up for a massive career, with him heading straight to No Jumper immediately afterwards before then appearing on Rap Genius not long after that, which led to a viral moment where he would come clean about capping in all of his raps.
I got 2 twin Glocks, turn you to a dancer. I don't have no straps for nobody. I don't got no straps.
Which surprisingly didn't even end up hurting his career. A lot of his fans really respected the fact that he was so open about not living what he rapped, which is funny to see because people like Slim Jesus, 6ix9ine, and many more have fallen victim to this, playing a gangster persona while not actually being gangster. But with Tecca being so open about the fact that he wasn't a gangster, he was able to avoid that and move on with his career with no problems whatsoever. He even came back a second time to do another Genius interview where he revealed even more about how he capped in his rap.
People be having misconceptions about guns. Like, if guns don't make you gangster, having a gun don't make anyone gangster. So rapping about guns don't make you want to be gangster. You just rapping about guns. Like, I rap about fucking bitches, and I have a whole girl. I ain't fucking none of these bitches. Period. If you don't like what I'm talking about, go listen to someone else. It's that simple. That's the beauty of music.
And people loved it so much that it went viral the second time, which was very helpful in gaining Tecca more attention leading up to the release of his first official mixtape called We Love You Tecca. This mixtape would drop alongside a music video for the track Out of Luck on Lyrical Lemonade, and surprisingly, this mixtape sold very well for an upcoming artist, doing 68K in his first week, which is higher than Lil Xan, Little Skies, and even Lil Mosey. And on top of that, it went on to debut at number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100, although not everybody was happy about that, because it seems like Lil Mosey was starting to feel a little bit jealous of Tecca. At first, he seemed pretty proud of Little Tecca, with the two of them appearing on an Instagram live stream to talk about the success of Ransom, as well as showing off a new song called Switching Sides, which was set to release sometime during 2019, but for one reason or another, the track ended up leaking before it could come out, and it turns out that Tecca would actually blame Lil Mosey for this, starting a little bit of friction between the two. On top of that, they had another track together called Somebody, which Lil Mosey was originally on, but was later cut off and replaced by a Boogie with a Hoodie, which most likely wasn't Lil Tecca's choice because after all, it was an Internet Money produced track and they probably had the final say of who was going to get on it and who wasn't. But either way, Lil Mosey being cut off of that track was his final straw, and he started to call out Lil Tecca online not long after that. He would go on an Instagram live stream and start talking to fans, with one of them asking when his next collaboration with Lil Tecca was going to be, with him responding that he never wanted them to talk about Lil Tecca again and that he didn't mess with them whatsoever.
Alright, so you said you dropping a song with Tecca. Fuck Tecca. Fuck is you saying? Don't ever bring his name up in my life one more time. for his head.
Tensions would get even higher after Lil Tecca ended up performing a show where the entire audience would chant "Fuck Lil Mosey."
Fuck Lil Mosey! Fuck Mosey! Fuck Lil Mosey! Fuck Lil Mosey! Fuck Mosey! Fuck Mosey! Fuck Mosey! Fuck Mosey! Fuck Mosey!
He ended up shutting down the chant, but either way, that clip was taken out of context and posted online, making it look like he was dissing him. And for the next little bit, neither one of them really spoke on the situation, but you could tell that they still weren't on good terms for the following year. But none of this would stop Lil Tecca's momentum whatsoever, because he actually ended up putting out a remix of Ransom that had Juice WRLD on it, with the two of them even coming out together at Rolling Loud to perform it live. As the year 2019 began to wrap up, a lot of people were complaining online that Lil Tecca didn't make it onto the XXL freshman list for 2019 as he had just missed the cutoff. But even with that missed opportunity, you could already tell that Lil Tecca was one of the hottest upcoming rappers at the time, with a successful mixtape, a hit song on the Billboard, and it looked like 2020 was going to be strong for him. But as 2020 began, his buzz started to slow down, with him having to focus more attention back on his online classes and finishing grade 12 before he could really become a full-time rapper, not to mention the pandemic would hit, so he couldn't do shows anymore. He would begin the year off pretty strong by appearing alongside the biggest industry plant to ever come into the game, the Kid Laroi, on the track Diva, which ended up getting a Lyrical Lemonade video. Although honestly, I think Kid Laroi benefited off of this video a lot more than Lil Tecca. At this point, he was the newer artist, and it felt like they were only putting him alongside Tecca to try to give him a little bit more credentials in the rap game. But either way, Tecca definitely wasn't fading away, with him dropping more tracks on SoundCloud as the year went on. He ended up dropping tracks like Why You Look Mad, I Don't Know, which ended up getting a Lyrical Lemonade video, as well as another track called All Star, which all slightly underperformed compared to the other stuff that he was putting out in 2019, but he definitely wasn't falling off by any means. Although the narrative online definitely was pointing towards that, but luckily for him, in April of 2020, he would release a song called Out of Love alongside a music video, which ended up reinvigorating his career and putting him back into a good place before the release of his first official album called Virgo World, which had a lot of pressure riding on it because it was going to prove that Lil Tecca either had longevity in the game or was a rapper that only blew up off a hype and really couldn't maintain his relevancy. This album would launch with the debut single on Lyrical Lemonade called Dooley, featuring Lil Uzi Vert, which actually had a little bit of controversy circulating around it because it was initially a Lil Uzi solo song that he would give to Tecca to remix, and a lot of Uzi's fans weren't very happy that they gave it to Tecca. They were complaining that they want the original instead, and because of that, he got a lot of hate off the initial single, leading into Virgo World, which was also kind of a disappointment. It started off pretty good because Dooley actually hit number 80 on the Billboard Hot 100, meaning that the album did have a hit single off of it, but at the same time, it only sold 35K, which was about half of what the initial mixtape sold. Not to mention it debuted at number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100, 6 whole slots lower than We Love You Tecca, so by all means, it was definitely a less successful project, although I wouldn't really call 35K fall-off numbers by any means, kind of putting Tecca into this weird limbo where it felt like he was definitely losing clout, but he wasn't really fully falling off. However, not long after the album dropped, he would drop another track called Never Left, which fans seemed to enjoy a whole lot more than the album itself, and it seemed like once again he was about to have a big comeback, but things were now depending on the next mixtape he was going to drop called We Love You Tecca 2. And honestly, this is kind of a bold move because it always feels like kind of a cop-out to release an album that's named after another more successful album, so people were definitely expecting it to either sell well or at least meet the same vibe, and if it didn't, then it was going to be a big flop for Tecca. However, he would drop a couple more singles before that project, one called Game Time featuring Amine, as well as another one called Money on Me, and probably most impressively, the track called Jet Ski featuring Lil Mosey, because it actually turns out that these two made up behind the scenes and were able to come together once again to drop a summertime banger, which a lot of fans really enjoyed. And honestly, that was a good move on Lil Mosey's part, because soon after this, he would go through something pretty raw, which I'll talk about when I do a video on Lil Mosey somewhere down the road, but for right now, let's get back to Tecca. In early 2021, Lil Tecca would appear on an Adem Ross livestream where Adem would play a gay remix of Ransom for him, which of course got a pretty good reaction out of him, and after that, the clip went viral, gaining Tecca more attention online for the first time in a couple years.
Let's get it.
I am the producer.
Turn a straight dude gay. Yeah. I got dick, I got ass, what you want? Yeah. Inside his booty, then I...
Alright, my bad.
After that, Money on Me would get a Lyrical Lemonade video, and he'd finally drop We Love You Tecca 2, which unfortunately ended up peaking at number 10 just like his prior project, and this time it only sold 30K. Now, I may be mistaken about this, but I do believe the album dropped the exact same week as a much more popular artist. I can't exactly remember who it was, but I do remember people around the time talking about that as a big factor to why the album underperformed so hard. And at this point, the pattern was set that every single project that Lil Tecca put out would sell worse and worse and worse, with fans online really wanting him to get back into the saddle and drop something a little bit different because that same sound from 2019 really wasn't doing the job anymore. However, Tecca would appear in a very strange place, actually producing a track for another upcoming artist called Virgo, which ended up getting a Lyrical Lemonade video called Knock Knock, which he would cameo in. So at this point, some fans were thinking that maybe Tecca was going to become a full-on producer and walk away from rap, or maybe he was going to only try to align himself alongside newer rappers and try to go off of that. But either way, that initial wave of relevancy that he had all the way back in 2019 had all but fizzled out by this point, and it seemed like Tecca was going to have to do something drastic if he wanted to get back into the public eye. He would end off the year 2021 by appearing on a track called Prada alongside 24K Golden, which was definitely a hit and very catchy, as well as doing a deluxe version for We Love You Tecca 2, before then mostly disappearing throughout 2022 with a lot of fans wondering where he was, but he was actually behind the scenes cooking up something new, trying to make a lot more of a personal project, actually taking his fans' criticisms that he was starting to sound too repetitive in every track that he dropped, so moving into a new sound and finally putting together a project called Tech, which is pretty impactful because every time an artist drops a self-titled mixtape or self-titled album, it's basically meant to represent everything they are as an artist, so naming it Tech was definitely a bold move, with him slowly hyping the project up throughout 2023, appearing on a bunch of interviews, talking about the track 500 Pounds, which was definitely a big change of pace for Tecca, but surprisingly, even being so different, it became very popular and actually ended up debuting on the Billboard Hot 100 at number 90, before then climbing its way up the charts and peaking at number 51, which is pretty impressive that he's still able to hit Billboard over 4 years into his career with not a lot of people really talking about him online or any antics to go along with it. And I feel like a lot of this really comes down to the fact that Lil Tecca stuck very heavily with internet money. A lot of other artists like Poor Stacy and Ian Dior would end up getting scouted out by internet money, working with them for a couple years before then going in a different direction, but Lil Tecca basically stuck along Taz Taylor, calling him his partner and basically his brother, with them making all of their music together. But anyways, I know a lot of you are probably waiting to see how Tech performed the first week it came out. Well, it actually ended up debuting at number 11 on the Billboard, which is one spot lower than the prior two projects, but luckily for Tech and his team, it actually would end up outselling Virgo World as well as We Love You Tecca 2, selling 41K first week, which definitely isn't bad. He's finally going in the right direction, and I think fans are very happy with this new direction that he's going in. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I was actually a pretty big Lil Tecca hater during 2019 to 2021. Seeing every single project he put out sell less and less made me feel like he was gonna fall off, but he really surprised me with the drop of this project. I think this new sound is a whole lot better than what he was doing in 2019, and it seems like his fans really stick with him, not to mention the newer generation definitely fucks with them. So he's in a very good place in his career where it seems like he's only gonna go on to do bigger and bigger things, and even if he doesn't, he's made it off a lot better than people like Mosey, Skies, Zan, or really anyone else from that era. I mean, part of me kind of wishes that he would get in Lil Skies' ear because I feel like Lil Skies could have the comeback that Lil Tech is having right now. I mean, it really goes to show that if you stay away from drugs, stay focused, and really try to make something that's very meaningful for your fans, you actually can make a comeback and do well. And I think Skies can do that. I think a lot of artists can do that, and Lil Tecca is just proving that it's possible. So you know what? At this point, I'm a reformed Lil Tecca hater. I'm not going to hate on him anymore. I think he's in a good spot. I think he's making good music, and I like the fact that he was able to come back years later. So shout out to him. Shout out to that new generation of rap. I'm not going to lie, I've been an old head for too long, and I'm finally starting to understand it a little bit more. So I'm going to start covering a lot more artists from that era if people really want to see that. But either way, you know what's got to come next. It's got to be Little Mosey. So that's going to be the next video for sure. But right now, shout out Knife Gang, shout out Mushroom Gang, shout out Teddy Bear Gang, Knife and a Pig, Pig and a Knife. You know what it is. Subscribe to the channel because we're trying to get to 20K and we're not too far off. I mean, we're making our way up. It's definitely very impressive and a lot of people have been watching lately. So shout out to you guys for that. And with that said, I also want to give a shout out to my paid Patreons, including Crusader, Hayden B, Liam Campbell. There might not be too many of you guys, but I definitely see you and really appreciate what you're doing. But yeah, besides that, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.